Neither of them have responded. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. It's 7:07 p.m. and we'll do a roll call. Ms. Shanahan?
Here.
Mr. Livingston?
Yes, here.
Mrs. Smith?
Here.
And myself, John Kites, is here as well. Mr. Keegan?
Here.
All right, let the record show Mr. Sirenides, Ms. Young are not present at the moment. Okay. All right, now we have public participation. Sabrina, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
We do not, and we have no attendees, so you're all set.
Okay, and we're live now, correct?
We are live.
All right, good stuff. All right, moving on is the little bit of administration work, and that's approval of the minutes of April 1st, 2021 meeting. Someone like to move that? Thank you, Mr. Livingston. If there are no corrections corrections to the minutes, I will now call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, please raise your hand and signify yes. All right.
Tom Keegan, yes.
All right, and I am also a yes. The minutes pass unanimously. All right, going down to item 3A1, and that's, let the record show Mr. Sirenides has joined us. Is item 3A1, it's update on the Visit Norwalk Tourism Initiative by consultant DKA. Sabrina, are you going to be speaking to this?
So Todd from DKA is actually here, and he has a presentation for you all as well. So as you guys are probably aware, we started the Visit Norwalk campaign about in November. So we took what was Norwalk Now and transformed that into Visit Norwalk, which is a more holistic, comprehensive tourism initiative that not only rebranded the site, but also will create eventually a new site where you can do a bunch of fun stuff, which Todd will get into. So Todd has been really great. He's helped us with a few other city projects, such as redoing, well, I won't say redoing the city seal, but we did not have a city seal that was ready to put on signage, like the real file to use it. So he redid that for us. He made us a modern seal as well, so that we can use that on social media. He's working on the click and request app as well with DPW. So he'll, not DPW, customer service, I'm sorry. So he can take the reins from here and give you a little update on what we've done up to this point and kind of what's to come in the next few months. We're hoping that the official launch of the new site with all of its content will be in July, as of July 1st. So Todd, I'll hand it over to you. Do you want to share your screen? I can also share mine. It's up to you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. How are you doing?
Welcome.
Can you guys hear me okay and see me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks for inviting me in tonight. Yeah, I'm going to, Sabrina, I will request to share my screen.
Sounds good. Since you're a panelist, you should be able to share.
Okay. So you should see a lot of red in the middle there. Is that? Okay. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, do you see my presentation title screen there?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. All right. So yeah, let me give you an update on where we are with my trusty visual aid here now that I have it working. And, you know, I'm going to put our work into the context of a destination branding campaign for Norwalk. And, you know, what does that mean? In terms of the marketing goals, overall, we are going to create a distinct identity for Norwalk as a great place to explore, dine, shop, play, and stay. Appealing to, you know, certainly we want to engage residents of the town, businesses of the town, but we also want to make sure that we are engaging with people from outside of town and getting them to come into Norwalk to do all these things. So the growth measures would be, of course, measurement of the campaigns itself in terms of, you know, on social, we can look at clicks and likes and follows and inquiries, website visits, et cetera. feet on the street, we can look at business and attraction visits, growth in revenues, retention, business development, and working with the city and the parking authority. We can look at increases in parking and of course tax base too, as the businesses are supported. And then ultimately, you know, we hope that we can see not only growth in businesses and business revenues, but employment there and residents, to the extent that that has a positive impact on your tax revenue. I know in some cases, you know, people move in with lots of kids and they kind of, you know, what they take out of the school system is more than they can offset with their residential taxes. But that's why we try to increase the commercial tax base as well. So we were awarded 2 contracts, as Sabrina noted. We started with what we'll call business and parking promotion that was initiated in November. And then we subsequently applied for what we'll broadly call the tourism contract, which we initiated in January. And I'll explain the components of these two individually, as well as how they're kind of coming together holistically. Because we were really looking at this as, you know, ultimately having one brand for Norwalk as a destination, one platform, one marketing platform, if you will, that encompasses many neighborhoods and many assets. So, you know, we kind of started with the project as kind of downtown focused because that's where most of the parking assets are. But, you know, we're looking to brand the city on the whole. And it only makes sense to do it in this way so that we don't confuse our consumers. So the scope of services, and this is overarching over both contracts for year one, again, knowing we started in late fall and early winter, is creation of a brand for tourism and visitation, which we'll look at in a minute, as well as developing the tools to give people more information, website development being primary, and also creating more assets for Norwalk and for use in this marketing campaign, such as photography and video, et cetera. Developing social media channels to connect and engage with people directly, and again, bring traffic to the website, as well as to make people aware of all the stuff that's going on in the city so they can go directly and support what's happening. To come up with a plan for the brand and the website launch, to develop promotions and an ad plan too for how we push this out further. As I mentioned, we want to go beyond the city into the region, and then hopefully beyond into the tri-state area at some point, to make sure we're bringing visitation in for as far out as is feasible. And then supporting, of course, the city with some other things like print materials, and keeping everyone informed as to what our measures are of success, or KPIs, key performance indicators are. And I mentioned some of those in the first slide. So in terms of the first contract for business and parking support, it came with an existing website that was known as norwalknow.org, which we rebranded to visitnorwalk.org. Admittedly, it has a focus on downtown businesses, primarily restaurants, but we have been able to not only support that platform, which gives the businesses a free opportunity to create listings, promote their events, et cetera, but we've surrounded that with not only promoting their events, but citywide events, neighborhoods citywide, and also adding content for where to stay in terms of lodging, where to live, particularly with a focus on apartments, because we know that that's a really growing asset of the city, as well as, you know, if you're looking for office space, whether that's co-working or manufacturing or whatever it is, we've got a lot of that as well too. We've developed some themed promotions along the seasons, starting with the holiday shopping guide. And currently we're just wrapping up tomorrow a spring restaurant week, which is a prefix dining specials with the participating restaurants, for which we created its own little website and worked with the restaurants to develop their menus and get those promotions out with a daily focusing on each one, with social media posts, et cetera. So we are posting on Instagram and Facebook every single day. We are pushing out 2 weekly e-newsletters. One goes out to a group we just commonly known as visitors. So we have over 1,000 people subscribed as visitors, and we have current and prospective businesses in the database as well too. So we have about 650 overall businesses that are reading these weekly. About 150 have signed up on this Visit Norwalk site to participate and share their promotions through that channel. And each week we add more from that pool of the additional 500 that are participating. It's not just businesses, it's civic organizations, nonprofits, events, attractions, you name it, they're all coming in and kind of promoting their wares, if you will, through this Visit Norwalk platform. Additionally, and as warranted, we take this content and we push out through the media a news release, such as Restaurant Week and other things, so that the media is telling our message as well too. In terms of the tourism branding contract, the city embraced the terms Visit Norwalk as the new destination brand. And this new logo, among a number of designs that were presented to initially a selection committee that Sabrina and group put together, was tested with the public. So we put out a public survey, I think, Sabrina, probably February, March, and it was open for about a month and gained a few hundred responses just to get people's reactions to this. So the main logo is Visit Norwalk. It's very colorful. It at least takes the color, the very bright colors from the former logo and brings those forward. People also saw, all these different colors as meaning diversity, as well as not just in terms of what's available in Norwalk, but in terms of the community itself. And then we've come up with a sub-branding system that will also let us apply it to different categories within destination branding, whether it's dining, entertainment, shopping, arts, etc.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yeah, certainly.
Yes.
Yeah, just how does this fit with the current logo? I mean, not logo. Yeah, the logo
That's
we
an
have
excellent
now.
question. So this will replace what I see. There's several of you have the Norwalk, the Sound of Connecticut logo. This is
Right, I have that on
designed
my
to
screen right
replace-
now. Right.
Yeah, it's designed to replace that, but I'm also going to show you how we've kind of on par created a municipal brand for the city using the legacy of the seal, if you will, and how it is complementary with this destination brand as well. That's coming up. So that's a really good question. And I think it's the next
Todd,
slide.
Todd, it's Jess. I just want to help out a little bit here. So
Yeah,
I
sure.
think, so there was a lot of work that was done for the logo with the wave and the logo with the buildings. And I think that's something that the city worked really hard on and did a lot of work, did a lot of public work on. And I know that it is something that the city has adopted, and it's on our buildings and it's on our shirts and it's on so on and so forth. So, I think that there is a place for the different logos. And, I hear Todd saying that this logo will replace the other logo. And I think that, in my particular view, I don't think that we're retiring the other logo. I think that this is really the marketing branding for business in Norwalk and tourism in Norwalk. And I do think that the logo that was existing with the wave is there still is a place for it. And I know that, I think that it's important to note that we haven't officially retired the old logo and that we haven't necessarily officially deemed that this will replace the old logo. But I do think that this is a branding exercise where we felt that Norwalk Now was very strong, but we thought that it could use a little bit of work for encompassing some of the tourism aspects that are going on in Norwalk and also bringing visitors in from outside of Norwalk. So we really wanted to be able to brand this particular effort, not only just for small businesses in South Norwalk that were restaurant-based, but really try to be more inclusive and more holistic about the effort here. And I think that really is what this brand is speaking to.
And to Jess's point, Tom, you would see something like this on like some signage or an event that we have or a pamphlet that we would give out to draw in visitors, no matter what that is. But you're not going to see that like plastered on a municipal building or truck, for example.
Yeah, got it. Okay, thanks.
Jess and Sabrina. We've done this in several communities, and of course, a lot of our work, because we're a Connecticut-based group, is in Connecticut. So we're coming up on Connecticut's 300th or 400th anniversary, and there's always something that comes before. So this is really a process about evolution versus revolution, and making sure that what we do is continuous with the equity that you have and some of the investment that's already been made. So thank you for supporting what I'm saying, Jess, with your direction too, because you guys have more of the history on the development of the prior brand, and we want to make sure that what we do makes sense for everyone, Norwalk and beyond, in terms of creating a clear brand for what's a destination brand versus what is the municipal brand. So we've also taken this opportunity to kind of, as Sabrina pointed out, refresh another identity that exists. This is the original seal of the city of Norwalk. And we've kind of modernized that a little bit.
Actually, I got to interrupt for a second again.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. The seal is set by ordinance, right?
Mhm.
And does this satisfy the ordinance? Because I'm looking at it and reading the ordinance, which says, and by the way, I'm not opposed to this. I just want to make sure we deal with it. There's a bridge with water, in the upper left is a bridge with water flowing there. Under upper right is an old well, and underneath is a monument. I think, if we're going to change it, it looks like we need to get legal involved and then maybe go through ordinance, if that's what
So, Tom, the seal itself is not changing. So the official seal was just refreshed for purposes of using it on signage and things like that, because we didn't have the physical file. So the city seal itself is staying the same. So when you're putting this on an official document, anything like that, that same seal is going to be used. This middle seal is really for like social media.
Then I got a problem with that then, because it says seal of the city of Norwalk.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Tom. I think that we need to take it through the process for sure, right? And I think that if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then it probably is a duck, right? So, not to mention it says seal of Norwalk on it. So I think we need to.
Yeah. I mean, I just think we need to, so all I'm saying is we got to work it through. I'm not saying I'm opposed.
And I think that this was, I love Todd's comment about evolution. And I think that was it, right? This really started as an exercise where Stu Leonard's came in, and Stu Leonard's wanted to help replace the gateway signage at exit 16. And we had asked for Stu Leonard's to put the city seal on the top of the sign. And, it took us a lot of work to find a file that was of a quality that could be actually recreated by the artist to stamp the wood at gateway, at the gateway sign. And so what we had asked Todd to do was we said, Todd, this is the traditional seal of Norwalk. And, we really need it in file formats where we can share the file with other folks, whether it be a nonprofit, whether it be a Keep Norwalk Beautiful sign, whether it be a gateway sign. And I think that what Todd did was sharpened up the seal on the left. And then in a creative exercise, also created the center seal in a way that reflects the seal in more of a modern stance. But that does not, regardless of that, Tom, I think that your points are really well taken, and I think we need to take it through the process and also understand if we need to add a well to that seal, because it is a bridge with water flowing under it and it is the monument, but the well is missing. So we should take it through that process.
Yeah, or just let's look at it.
I'll point out to you too that, we certainly don't work in a vacuum on this, and we did a lot of research and best practices studies in taking this direction. So they include not only, looking at, if you can imagine in your mind, consumer products brands that have evolved over the years, Pepsi, Coke, Ford, they're all sharpened up, but they're true to the original elements of the brand. But we looked at municipalities as well too, and cities. So this one most closely resembles, out of our best practices, the city of Boston, Massachusetts, which maintains its original seal for official use and holds up to whatever the ordinances state. However, they have middle ground as well too. And if you Google it, I'm sorry, I don't have it loaded up here on my computer for tonight, but they also have this middle ground with this other seal that is more applicable to 21st century communications, if you will. If you start to use this original seal, for example, as an icon for an app or for your social media profile picture, for signage, as Jess pointed out, it all plugs up. It becomes mush. You know, there's nothing distinguishable. So we came up with this middle ground, and it was designed to complement this new destination brand as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I just want to be clear. I'm not objecting to this. It's just a lawyer in me that's saying that that it doesn't necessarily fit the ordinance. I think it's great. I just want to make sure we don't get ourselves in trouble anyhow.
And I would never.
I just apologize. Sabrina, do you mind allowing Darlene in? She's currently an attendee. And let the record show
Sure.
Darlene Young has joined us. I'm sorry, please.
Totally fine.
Tom, your point is taken. In no way, shape, or form will we work outside of the ordinance, and we will make whatever we do comply with what is required, because we don't have the legal background that.
No, again, and I'm not objecting. I'm just making sure we don't lose sight of the point.
And let it be known that we love the lawyer in you, because that's what helps us do the things that we need to do with the checks and balances. So thank you.
Yeah, buttering me up. Okay.
No, I'm serious.
Real quick, you mentioned Stu Leonard's, and maybe this is a question for you, Todd or Jessica. Have you ever seen a collaborative effort with a municipality and some of the larger businesses within the community participating in a joint marketing effort?
So it's interesting you say that, because we actually Sabrina and I had a call with Brian Baxendale not too long ago, where Brian was talking about, the thought of being able to identify the major companies here in Norwalk and asking for them to be able to partner with us in some way. And one of the things that he was thinking of was helping to support children and youth services and children and youth programs. But then Sabrina and I were also talking to him about things as simple as gateway signage or public artwork, or, ways in which we would be able to receive sponsorship from these companies in some way, shape, or form, and being able to almost put a pitch deck together for them to be able to almost pick and choose what things they would like to sponsor and which ones they wouldn't like to sponsor. So it definitely has been a conversation that's popped up. It's actually popped up quite a number of times at the Planning Commission.
I know connectivity between the mall and Sonos was was a part of the conversation during the approval of the mall, and I don't know, maybe it might be time to follow up with them to maybe some sort of collaborative, which it goes both ways between Sono and the city and the mall and vice versa. I don't know, just was thinking.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a lot of sense. The gateway signage that was replaced at exit 16 was approximately $10,000. So we as a department have put in our budget $50,000, because we need to replace the signs at exit 14, the signs at exit 15, and one sign at exit 16. So we had asked originally for $30,000, I believe, for FY22, and then another 20 for FY23, with the thought we had asked for it through capital, but the thought was that we would go and pitch to the companies and ask the companies if they would be willing to donate the sign as part of that work, now that we had the design for exit 16.
I mean, have we ever thought about, because I'm actually, the marketing, everything has changed since the introduction of social media, but has there been any talk about perhaps sponsored ads on Instagram or Facebook or anything along those lines?
Actually, we haven't. I don't know. Todd and Sabrina may have talked about that, but we haven't. I haven't. It's not even something that I thought of, to be perfectly honest, John. I think it's a really good idea, but it's not something I thought of. We were thinking of the signage in the Norwalk Parking Authority garages, and we were also thinking of the signage that was in the elevators, in addition to signage that might be on those garbage cans up in Wall Street as well, and that in some cases it actually should be more Norwalk driven, go to the aquarium, go to Sono Collection, and trying to really promote the neighborhoods from one neighborhood to the next. But, your point's really well taken, and it's not something that I had thought of. We should explore it.
I think me and Todd have talked about it a few times. I just don't think the tourism website is ready for that yet. But once we have everything in there where somebody can go in and actually plan a trip and do all that stuff, I think that's definitely an option for us to get the word out for sure.
I don't know if I cut you off. You have more of your presentation left.
No, that's okay. I have a few slides left, and I also want to respond to some of your points too. We good all good points, because we have had some initial conversations with some of the major people of critical mass. The Maritime Aquarium, we've talked with their marketing staff, and we've had at least email conversation with Sono Collection as well too, in terms of working collaboratively. So we've started to promote their events certainly in our social media stuff, and we hope to work in a more collaborative process as we go forward. To your point about major corporations or larger corporations helping municipalities, one that I haven't worked on directly, but I'm well aware of through another client, is how Under Armour works with the city of Baltimore. Under Armour really differentiates their brand locally by how they create, support job creation, training, really embrace the city as a Baltimore brand. Of course, they've got the Ravens right there as well too. They've got the Orioles right there. But Under Armour has really put their money into the city and helping the city itself market and revitalize itself too. So that's an example you might want to look to. I think Stu Leonard certainly fits the bill in terms of a well-known brand with a local resident as well too. The owner, the namesake is still in place. So, certainly we want to leverage those opportunities wherever we can to, try and create this 2 + 2 = 5 scenario, and make it work so that they feel like they're getting some good altruism or social responsibility as far as how they can, market their company as a true, Norwalk rooted organization, as well as, help the community market itself and improve itself.
Right,
So yeah, I have a couple.
Yeah, I'm just thinking where, the city could retain control of its image, its product, but yet maybe some of your fees can be offset by some of these larger companies, such as the Sono Collection, Stu Leonard's, and so forth. Anyway, please proceed.
The other thing, Chairman Kaides, I'm not sure if, I'm sure you caught it, but just as a reminder, the half of Todd's work is covered by the parking authority. So one half of the work is covered by the parking authority, which is why it's focused on business and the parking urban core. And the other is the supplement, which is all of Norwalk and the tourism portion. So what we tried to do with Todd's work and Todd's contract was be able to take not only what the parking authority is doing, but then also fill in around the urban core with the secondary contract that focuses on tourism. And Todd has been so good to work with, because he's basically looked at the two of those contracts in unison and kind of married them together so that basically we have the ability to kind of cover off everything. But I wanted to just note, because $100,000 is coming from the parking authority for this effort.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sabrina will tell you they've kind of kept us honest too, to make sure that we're supporting the core urban areas where they have assets, so that when people go down there, they can also pay to park their cars. So this is the implementation. I wanted to show you just a few screenshots of where we're heading with, for example, the new website. Again, as we're designing this, we've looked at a number of communities that we aspire to kind of look to as far as a branding look. So this is kind of the top half of the homepage, and this next one's going to be a little hard to look at, but this is sort of on the left is sort of an idea of the homepage with some scrolling. And really what we have here is the opportunity to be more advertorial, if you will, with how we present ourselves, coming up with narratives and blogs about Explore Norwalk and its neighborhoods, visit our key destinations like beaches and parks, plan your visit with a whole section on where to stay, where to eat, what to do. And also it'll be itinerary driven. So for example, where the red hand is here, if I wanted to look at, 7-day trip adventures, I could click on that. It would open a page for 7-day trip adventures. And within that page, among the 7, I could take the seafood tour, which again would give me an idea of all the great seafood places in town. So we'll be continually developing content for this that's seasonal, fresh, relative to all the various types of things that you can do and see and explore in Norwalk, so that it moves beyond, as we've said, just sort of the downtown business focus, and really appeals to attract a regional consumer, and of course, business operators as well, to see the city as a really vibrant place. So this is in development right now, again, with the intention to have this done by the peak season, sort of a July launch. Again, some of this stuff you may have encountered, just to show you how, we, again, post daily on Instagram, and we cover all kinds of things there. Topical, local. There's, in fact, this Pinewood Derby event was a Sono Collection event a couple of weeks ago. We supported a community nonprofit with planting trees on Arbor Day. We're focused on different neighborhoods here. I think that's probably Wall Street in Washington. I'm not quite sure. This also was a Sono Collection event. The one in the top left was a new business that opened that does some sort of beverages. Complimentary to is the Facebook page. Restaurant Week, as we talked about, is just concluding tomorrow. It's a standalone promotion where, again, we work directly with the restaurants to have them come up with special menus and special pricing for the week. This is graphics that are in the Norwalk Parking Authority garages and lots. So top left here is if you can imagine one of these freestanding kiosks as you pull in or pull out. On the bottom where it says A Lot Media, this is where they usually have their rates and stuff. This is the media company that runs these things. But the top half is an ad. So this rotates. 1 minute there might be a Hartford Hospital ad or Hartford Healthcare ad, which is one of their major clients. The next minute it may be one of their other major clients, and then this one pops up. They gave us this space for free, and they really suggested using QR codes because everybody's got their phone in hand these days. So when you click on this QR code if you're walking by it, going to the elevator, or you're pulling in or paying or whatever, it opens this up on your screen. And from there, it'll take you to the Visit Norwalk page, or the Visit Norwalk Facebook page, or the Visit Norwalk Instagram page, where you can find out exactly what's happening at the moment. So again, once you get to those sources, we're reflecting events that are happening this week, this weekend, so it's always fresh. And then just, how's this going to look on swag items, t-shirts, hats, reusable shopping bags, water bottles, whatever Sabrina thinks is going to be supportive of some of things that she does as far as tourism and economic development promotion, coffee mugs, pop sockets, you name it. So we've tried to make this mark as versatile as possible, so that people get to know it. It becomes part of their everyday routine. When they open the dishwasher, open the kitchen cabinet, make coffee, there it is. When they're using their phone to go through and track what's on the social media page, they see this as well too. So just trying to get it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So I love the color. I think this looks really great. It pops. But when I look at it, it doesn't indicate Connecticut, because you've got Norwalk, California, you've got all kinds of Norwalk. Was there any thought to why we left CT off, or does it make a difference?
Yeah, you did ask that question, whether that needed to be included or not. And I think there's Norwalk, Ohio, which I guess was founded by the descendants that migrated from Norwalk, Connecticut. So
and there's Norwalk, California. There are a couple of them. I was I don't know, just thought to bring that up, but I'm sure you talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think as Darlene, as we go beyond, the Connecticut and the tri-state area, if there's a need to put Connecticut in there, we would make this modular. We have not yet established a series of, taglines like this, the sound of Connecticut and things like that yet, but certainly that's something for future use or future thought, I would guess, to kind of augment this. But we want to create a sense of place, certainly initially within Connecticut and within the tri-state area, so that we don't see immediately any potential confusion with Ohio or California, but certainly we would make this scalable and modular if we needed to do that.
Thank you. It's
You're welcome.
beautiful. I love it. Right.
That's all I have as far as the prepared presentation, but I'm certainly here to answer any questions as well and take any additional thoughts or suggestions that you may have come up with when I was talking.
You have a question?
Yeah, no, I thought this was great. I just, and you may have already said this, but obviously a key to this is keeping it up to date. So I'm curious, what's the arrangement we have with you or whoever to keep, and who's going to keep this up to date?
We're on board with the current contracts through the end of the year. I think there's, one is probably in the process of renewal now. That's the one with the parking authority, and certainly, we'd love to stay on board as long as we can with you. We, certainly will make sure that we can adhere with whatever comes our way. I mean, right now it's kind of a strange time in that we're sort of flying the plane as we're building it, I guess, as I would say. And what I've seen is really a lot of activity that not only is seasonal. Norwalk comes back to life, I think, in spring and summer, but coming out of this COVID-19 period where businesses are just anxious to get back up to 100% and be open and welcome to customers. It's just a great time. It's a perfect time to actually roll this out and build awareness in it. So whatever we do, we're certainly going to make sure it's scalable up or down with whatever the needs of the city are, and continue to support you in this. So we're hoping to stay involved as long as there's a value in what we're providing.
And Tom,
So there's a couple pieces to this, Tom. So one of them is we have a relationship with a company called Go Nation, and Go Nation basically allows each business to manage their own profile and keep their own profile up to date. So each business has the ability to go on, they create a page, and they can update as many times as they want per day, or they can update on a monthly basis. And I think originally what was happening was we were doing a little bit of a spoken wheel exercise where we had, all of the businesses on the outside, and they were all going to one person for updates. And the one person or the one company that was updating it was just a lot for them to be able to handle that, I think. And so we had partnered with Go Nation previous to Todd coming on board, because that allowed much more of a spiderweb approach, or much more of an approach where all the people could own their information, they could own their data, and they could update it as they saw fit, right? And so that helps, I think, primarily with the content, because the way in which Todd's site is built is that Todd pulls all of the information that is based on what is inputted from the business itself. So the business owns the information. It's up to them to keep it updated. Todd basically is building us a website that's kind of a shell to a certain extent, where all of the data and content is populated from what the business owners are actually providing us. So I think that's one piece. And then I think the second piece is that Todd is managing our social media accounts, which is really a heavy lift. So he's got Facebook and Instagram, and that's really a piece that Todd needs to curate and create content for on a daily basis. So that's sort of where his lift is to a certain extent. And then we also have some other pieces as well that are more that are, again, sort of feature pieces, I would say, like, for example, the Stepping Stone Museum or the Maritime Aquarium. Maybe they are updating on a weekly basis, but we also have sort of set content in that site as well. For example, Vets Park is explained, or Matthews is explained. And I think the piece that is really important here is that when we had a previous contract in place, we didn't necessarily think of succession, and we didn't necessarily think of how the city would be able to operate the website on our own. So part of developing a new website with Todd is that Todd is able to build the site with us, so that regardless of who is operating on the contract, and Todd, you'll be with us for a long time, and your contract is signed. I don't want to scare you by any means, but the part of it for us from the city standpoint was, if God forbid, Todd builds us a site and goes away and we can't use it, then it's kind of a useless investment for us, right? We've spent, years of time curating data and curating information, and yet we have no ability to maintain it in any way. And we're kind of married to the consultant because the data is not really ours anymore. The content's not ours when we don't have the code to be able to update it. So one of the things that Todd and Sabrina have been doing is creating this website so that regardless of who we have on board, we as the city have the power and the autonomy and the authority to basically operate that website to keep it live and keep it well. And I think that's a really big piece of why we brought Todd on as well.
Barbara, I saw you had a question.
Jessica already answered it. Thank you.
Great.
That was a great explanation because the pre-existing Norwalk Now folks, Go Nation, they really built a business model around working primarily with the restaurant community and developing promotional tools, including, they work directly with some of these restaurants to help them develop their own websites. And what they put together that we've kind of worked with and around is really proprietary technology to them. So we're kind of weaning off that. And our philosophy as an agency is always to work with clients to develop a product that becomes the client's property. And is, as Jess pointed out, if for some reason we go away at some point, this is going to be a fully functional digital environment that the city itself can maintain or the next group can take over seamlessly. We use, in digital marketing terminology, we use open source technology, which means that it's available to everyone. It's not something that we charge a fee for proprietary coding and licenses and things of that nature. So we are definitely respectful of the fact that this is your investment and this is your intellectual property as well as your digital property going forward. So whatever we make is certainly going to be useful by whoever is going to maintain the content going forward. Hopefully it's us, but if it's not, it belongs to the city of Norwalk.
So just a heads up, guys, I'm gonna bring, well, Todd might not be back next month, but I'm gonna bring his contract up next month so that he's on the fiscal year calendar. So it's a little bit more manageable for us from a budgeting standpoint. And I do have money in my budget for him next year, as does the parking authority. So we have a 5-year option on each of the contracts to keep Todd on without having to go to RFP. But after that 5 years up, we would then go to RFP again, or we would just maintain it in-house. Either way, it ends up falling at that point in time 5 years from now.
Well, Todd, thank you. And Sabrina and Jessica, thank you. I like what I see so far. Looks great.
Thanks for your patience and all the great questions. I appreciate it.
All right. Cross number 1 off the list. Okay, next we have an update on the activity within the enterprise zone since the 2020 expansion. Who's going to be speaking to this, Sabrina?
I can speak to it, yes. So as you know, we passed through the planning committee a year and a half ago at this point, and then proceeded to the ordinance committee, where the ordinance was altered to include Census Tract 437, which is the census tract that includes Wall Street and West Avenue, and it goes all the way up to Cross Street and Route 1, and to the river on the other side, and to the connector on the other side. So once that process was completed, we had to submit both a map and the updated ordinance to the state, where they essentially sign off that we're meeting all the criteria, we went through the local process properly, and that they are okay with us establishing an additional expansion to the enterprise zone. That process was smack dab in the middle of COVID, so it took a little bit longer than usual, but it got signed and ratified in March. So it's been active for a couple months now. I am the main administrator on the city side, so anyone who needs a verification letter that their property is within the enterprise zone to then receive any type of benefit would go through me. At this point in time, we've had one transaction in the actual expanded geography at this point, and that was really just a sale of a property. And for the enterprise zone, it's also a benefit on the tax side, on the state side, where you are exempted from paying state conveyance tax on that property. So that's all that we've seen in the current geography at this point. I will say that there is one project in Sono that will eventually most likely use the benefit itself, and that's Harborside Sono, but they're figuring out the process as of right now because of the income requirements. It requires a little more legwork on their end to actually see that benefit every year, because as soon as one person that lives in that building is over that 200 times the median income, they lose their benefit completely. So there's a lot of reporting that goes into a residential development with the enterprise zone, which is why a lot of the time you don't see residential developments taking advantage of it. Additionally, on the plus side, though, we've had 3 businesses who have used the manufacturing enterprise zone benefit, which is actually citywide, and that helps them not to pay any personal property tax on any equipment, and additionally on top of that, they don't pay any sales tax on any equipment they're buying for their manufacturing either. So we've had 3 businesses that have gone through the process and passed that. So that's really a state benefit, not really a local one, but it's great that we're getting these manufacturing businesses coming into vacant properties and taking advantage of it. So that's really the update as of right now. Hopefully we'll see something in the future, but that's basically it.
Can you please keep us, if there's any movement or any activity, and just let us know.
Sure, of course.
Thank you. Any questions for Sabrina in regards to the enterprise zone? No? Okay. Thank you. All right, now we're moving along to item B1. Mr. Badoli, are you with us? There he is.
I'm here. How are you doing?
How you doing, buddy?
All right.
So actually, I'll just read it and then you can get into your into the specifics. Advance the final PY 47 annual action plan to the Common Council for its approval, and to authorize the mayor to execute any and all documents associated with the submission of the PY 47 AAP to HUD, and all documents consistent with the approved PY 47 AAP. Someone like to move that? Thank you, Barbara. So yeah, Brian, if you don't mind just giving us, I know this has come to us several times, but it's mind giving us an overview of what we've done to this point, please.
Yeah, no problem. So what you have before you tonight is our yearly plan for how we anticipate spending CDBG funds. This has obviously been discussed the last 3 meetings where you were presented the various public service applications, ranked them. We developed the scoring system and actually put forth a set of recommendations based on our discussions. Conducted a public hearing to note that there was no public comment received to date in regards to the final recommendations. But basically what has been provided in the link to you all is the statutorily required document that we submit to HUD, the annual action plan that details what we're going to be spending things on, spending the funds on for the next year. So if you all had a chance to look at that, it is included in your agenda packet. But really, it's the formality of approving it so we can submit it to HUD as required.
And just a quick follow-up to that, everyone, how we've been doing this, where everyone has their choices, and I'm proud to report that everyone got their top choice. We try to do, some got their second, but I guess just the way the cards came out, but obviously we didn't have enough money to allow for everyone's top 3, but I think we made it as democratic as we possibly could.
I see that person to person got a couple thousand more than they asked for. I mean, what was the history of that one? I'm not.
Yeah, so as we allocated everyone's top first choices, we wanted to go through, and there was a rounding it, and we felt that was going to go the furthest for them, given the nature of their services.
Yeah, well, they're great. They were, I think, one of my top choices. So that's great. I'm just curious.
Any other questions in regards to the CDBG allocations? No, just want to thank you all again for getting me your choices, and I know it's always tough. We don't have enough money to give everyone all their requests, but I think we chose the right folks who are going to do the best things with the money they have gotten. All right, seeing there are no other questions, I will now call for a vote. All in favor of approving the CDBG PY 47, please raise your hands. And
Tom
Mr.
Keegan, yes.
Okay, and I'm also a yes, that passes unanimously. Okay, Brian, I think we still got you for one item, and that's an update on the South Norwalk TOD study.
Yeah, and I can provide just a brief update. We'll have a more substantive update in coming months as a result of our consultant who's been working away based on feedback received at the last public meeting. They received a number of comments, and what they're doing right now is working out a number of development scenarios that we'll be able to present to you for discussion. We anticipate having those on May 19th and having another advisory committee meeting, which comprises a number of you, as well as a number of the stakeholders in the area, and then another public outreach meeting to discuss some of those findings. So there's more to come on that. But things are moving along nicely, and there's going to be a lot more substantive items to take a look at in the coming months.
When do you think we'll have an LDA before this committee?
So that's in regards to the potential property acquisition that we've been talking about.
Okay.
That is something we're looking at probably July, based on the rate that things have been moving for discussion. But we want to make sure that we have some of these recommendations too in our discussion around the development scenarios to make sure that they're aligning well.
Well said. Okay. Any questions in regards to the South Norwalk TOD? More to come.
I just have to say, thank you for coming to the meeting. I think we had about a month or so ago. But you also know that at our district meeting, folks would like information as it's coming out as well. Too many times we don't know about something until we see the building starting to be built. And so, whatever information is coming out, I want to be able to share that information in a timely manner that lets people feel like they are informed in a reasonable amount of time. Because it's an issue, because I think after our meeting, and we talked about the heights of the buildings, and I'm not sure about all that stuff. Just a couple of weeks later, we find out that another developer's bought property right across the street with the same design in mind. And it just doesn't sit well with folks.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I appreciate
to the extent that we can provide information in a reasonable time.
Yeah, Brian, please don't make Darlene mad, okay?
Oh,
Okay.
No, we had a great conversation.
Don't make Darlene mad.
I know that. All right, I'm very well aware.
That's rule number one.
Those
He's trying not to smile right now.
That was in my employee handbook when they onboarded it. That's good.
Okay.
But no, Darlene, I appreciated that conversation, and I actually would like to go back. Obviously, we can connect offline.
We plan to actually send you something. We just had our meeting Monday, and we'd like you to know if you could come back on Monday, first Monday in June. So I will reach out to you.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I think there's a general comment too, because it's interesting, because in regards to that specific project, I know that question had come up. We're sort of in this weird intersection, right, where we had the South Norwalk TOD that had been done, what was it, in 2017. So that project is really kind of advancing those goals there, and we're trying to kind of take a more localized approach. So I want to make sure that we're obviously in constant communication to hopefully kind of to talk these things out ultimately.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Thank you, Brian. You have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Okay, moving along. Item C, transportation, parking, mobility. We're going to get an update on the transportation master plan. Jess, are you going to speak to that?
I was going to take it, Chairman. Mike.
Yeah,
How
Mike Yosick is on. Yep, thank you.
Basically, we just finished executing the contract, and we had a couple organizational meetings, consultant. So first thing up is they're going to try to review all the existing studies and get an existing condition type survey ready, and we'll be starting to put together a list of stakeholders and start going out researching some of the problems and, asking people, and then scheduling some public outreach sessions, later on this year. So that's pretty much where we're at with that study. So it's just really in its very beginning stages.
Hey, Mike, when do you see the RFP going out?
The RFP was issued. We had the consultant on board now, so we had the
Okay.
contract just got signed last week. So
All right, yeah, if you guys don't just mind, keeping us updated on the progress.
absolutely.
Maybe in a couple months,
Yeah.
we'll be further along.
So the contract that we signed is with FHI, and they're working with Stantec. So we're excited to be able to work with them. We had 4 really great applicants apply through the RFP process, and all of them had different pieces to provide to us. And what we liked about FHI and Stantec is that they had a really solid community process that we wanted to work with them on. And then we really also like the fact that they were balancing walking and biking with also the roadway. So it really is something that we're trying to achieve here in Norwalk with complete streets and Vision Zero. And so we really felt as though they would be the best consultant to work with on this. So we were excited to be able to get them on board.
Great. Okay, any questions? No? Okay, Mike, I believe you're also going to speak to the Safe Routes to School
Safe
initiatives.
Routes.
Update.
Yes, on that one we've selected the continuation on Highland Avenue to improve the sidewalks north of where the previous project left off up to Brian McMahon and Brookside School. The design is pretty much done, but we have the project kind of on hold because the gas lines on Highland Avenue are going to be replaced. So there's no sense doing the sidewalk work that'll get ripped up to put the gas lines in. So we're just waiting for the gas company to do their work this summer, and then we'll be ready to go with the sidewalks.
So Mike, you don't think you'll be able to do it this summer? When do you think you could do it?
We're hoping we can. We're kind of at the mercy of the gas company. But they're in that area now, so we're hoping that they'll get done faster and sooner than later. So we'll.
Have you put the project out to bid?
No, we haven't put it out to bid because we don't want to have a contractor that we can't. They can only keep their prices. They'll probably only keep their prices for 90 days, and if they can't get the work done, we're subject to claims and stuff like that.
No, understood. I'm just curious because it's in Lisa in my district, and so we get questions about this. So kind of curious if there's anything we could tell people, like 6 months, I don't know, or next.
I'll try to get you a better schedule from
Yeah.
the gas company when they're going to do the work.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Or we can talk offline. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, any questions? No? All right, thank you, Mike, for your time.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. All right, last item D is under Economic and Community Development. It's an update on the Mlk Corridor initiative. Must be you, Jess?
Yep, this one is me. Let me just share my screen here. So simple until it's not simple anymore. Let me find where my file is here. Can you see this?
Yes.
Awesome. So we have been working on the Mlk Corridor initiative, and when I say what I mean is that we as the city have been communicating and partnering with the faith-based community and the South Norwalk community to be able to come up with a initiative that focuses purely on South Norwalk. And the background of this is when Bruce Morris was actually in the legislative body, an elected official. He had submitted legislation that looked at identifying MLK corridors in some of the communities in Connecticut. And the state named 3 corridors in Connecticut: Norwalk, Middletown, and New Britain. And they designated these corridors as epicenters for economic activity to benefit the community. And they focused on education, economic development, and housing. And so Norwalk was one of those communities that was identified through the process and recognized by the state. And so in 2017, the city agreed to participate in that application for the MLK Corridor Initiative. And there was a little bit of a hiatus between 2017 and 2019, but we created a steering committee and we began meeting in January 2019. And again, when I say we, I'm talking about the faith-based community as well as South Norwalk community members, and the mayor is a chair, and also Reverend Clark is a chair, in addition to city staff as well. And we advanced our work. We held 2 hour public community meetings in October, and we held 4 of them. We held one of them on one day between 10 and 12 in the morning, and also between 5 and 7 in the evening. And then we held 2 the next day at the same time. And there were a bunch of recommendations that came through and were identified through that process. And I'll touch on all of those. This is just more of a highlight of the timeline. And as a result of that, deck, we geared up for March the 19th, 2020, to be able to meet with state officials, to be able to show them these recommendations that were based on public feedback. And we all know what happened in March. So that meeting got canceled, but that didn't mean that at the local level and at the community level work stopped. So we began working on those recommendations at the local level and at the community level. And I'll talk a little bit about that. We launched a residential facade program in November 2020, which was one of the recommendations that was identified. And we met actually as a group again in March 2021. So again, there was a 12-month hiatus, or we were put on hold for a year while we let COVID, while we coordinated for COVID and organized for COVID. But I think the really great news is that with all of the work that had been done since January 2019, talking with the public and making recommendations and really being able to articulate the need for the community, there was a $3 million Mlk Corridor Initiative grant that was announced by the state not too long ago, just a couple weeks ago. And I think we can thank Senator Bob Duff for that, as well as the community that worked so hard to be able to identify what the priorities are. So one question might be, well, what is the Mldk Corridor? And a lot of people think that it's actually just MLK Drive, but in reality, it's actually a whole neighborhood and encompasses a lot of South Norwalk. And it's a bit of an irregular shape here based on census tracts, but it starts in the north on all the way up at Sono Collection and sort of zigzags all the way down Meadow Street, Wilson Ave to just past MLK. And then on the western border, it's Boughton to Soundview to Flax Hill. And then this little piece here that sort of sticks out is Couch Street, which we wanted to include. So one of the questions was, if you are on the border of the Mlk Corridor geography, do we only fund initiatives on one side of the street and not the other side of the street? And the idea was, no, we would fund projects and initiatives on both sides of the street. It's just that we needed to delineate the geography in some way, shape, or form. So in saying that, when we did meet with the public, we really focused outreach in this particular community, and we worked hard to get community members to attend. And I think we were really successful. We had over 100 people attend the meetings, and we got well over 200 comments. So one of the exercises that we did is we actually categorized the feedback that we got, and we laid out maps as part of that public process. So as part of the process, we laid out maps on the table, and we gave sticky notes and little sticky colors based on what the issues were, what the concerns were. So the community could actually put the stickers on the map to identify where the challenges were, but they were also able to give us comments, verbal comments, and actually written comments. So it's kind of interesting to see this particular slide because we not only collected data through speaking with people, but we collected it through mapping. And what we ended up doing was taking it back to the office, back to City Hall, and entering it into the GIS. And then we were able to share it with the different departments to let them know where problem areas were, where concerns were, and what those categories were. And of course, the database in GIS not only has the category that the comment falls into, but also has the specific comment so that people were able to have reference as to what was being discussed. So we used that information in February 2020, I would say, to come up with a set of recommendations. And since February 2020, we've been working, even though we didn't meet for a year, we have been working on the recommendations. And I would say, we've been working on them in a few ways. One way we've been working on them is to actually apply for grants that are external to the city and ask the state for support, which relates to the $3 million. But in addition to that, we also have been working the recommendations into our daily operations and also working the recommendations into the budget for the future fiscal year and being able to really focus on at the local level and understanding what our resources are and how we can be more responsive to what the neighborhood is asking for. So one of these programs was the Facade Improvement Program, and this was a program that the redevelopment agency had actually provided in the past. However, it had a few different caveats. One of the caveats, for example, might have been that it could only be in the redevelopment agency geography, which this overlays, but not quite. The second is that there was a facade improvement program that focused specifically on historical residential units that were owner occupied. And so the redevelopment agency did a great job. They actually recreated the facade improvement program to be residential focused on the Mlk Corridor. And what was great about it is that it not only is owner occupied units, but it's also renter occupied units. And I think that that was one of the bigger challenges that we had with the neighborhood and with South Norwalk is that not all of the tenants are owners of the homes, right? And so it may be really hard for the tenant to work with the owner of the home to put investment into that particular home, knowing that a tenant is living there. And as a result of that, we were able to do a really great effort, and we were able to award 13 applicants with funding in order to be able to do facade improvements. And I think what's interesting here is that we've been pushing really hard and trying to educate people about the programs that we offer here in Norwalk. And we had more than double the amount of people who applied for this particular grant facade program. And I think that the really interesting thing when we had the public meeting was that people were not only there to provide comment and give information on what concern areas they have, but in addition to that, there was a lot of education that was going on where people were saying, like, I really wish the city would, offer me some support in facade improvement. Like, oh, actually we have a program and the program looks like this and this is how it works and so on and so forth. So it was a really great interaction and information flowing both ways. And I think that part of the success of this as well was that Darlene was able to really share the information that is available and worked really hard with the redevelopment agency to make sure that there were flyers put up, that there were flyers out around the neighborhood. I'm really pleased with the results of this. And I'm also pleased with the distribution of this. The map on the right-hand side shows the distribution of the 13 dots. And you may wonder, why is it yellow and why is it green and why is it red? And that was part of the process that we used if the folks and the applicants needed to provide us with more information, if they needed to provide us with critical information, or if they were good to go. So it's just a map that that was made for internal purposes, but I wanted to show the distribution of how we allocated the funds. On the slide before, if you noted, one of the recommendations was to spend $1 million on this particular program, and there was a total of $250,000 spent in this particular round. But with the $3 million that we received from the state, we have intentions to be able to offer a whole second wave or a second phase of this facade program. And one of the things that I think we're trying to think about, and we will think about through some subcommittee work that we're doing, is do we want to open this up not only to and residential residential buildings, but also commercial buildings and industrial buildings. And I think we have the storefront improvement program here at the city, but maybe we want to make a certain focus on the Mlk Corridor storefront improvement program. So I'll move on. The second is an art initiative. And, you know, Sabrina's in a better position to be talking about this than I am because she's the one who's leading the effort with the Arts Commission. But we had recommended that $50,000 be spent on creating art in the neighborhood and being able to identify what that looks like. And one of the things that we did is we applied to a Bloomberg grant that we were not successful at, but we applied with a $25,000 match for $25,000 for Bloomberg. And again, we weren't successful at that, but what we did do is we requested $50,000 worth of funding through the city budget, and we were able to then move forward with a full initiative where 3 different locations will be painted and will be decorated with murals moving forward. And you know, what I love about this particular initiative is that we've gone out to call for responses, call to artists to be able to submit their artwork. But what's really great about this is that we've been working to figure out how to share those designs and that artwork with not only the Art Commission, but the community as well, and figuring out how to involve the community in being able to actually paint this work and be involved with the actual installation of this work. So again, with future budget years, we continue to ask for funding, but I think that this is just a really great start to adding public art to the neighborhood. This one's really interesting because it's a public Wi-Fi effort and an education effort. And part of the work that was done since February 2020 and March 2020 is an effort that where we actually partnered with Dalio Education and the Norwalk Public School System. And we ended up having $640,000 brought together to bring broadband to more than 1,000 families in the South Norwalk area. But you know, although that has been great and it's been extremely helpful during COVID, it doesn't necessarily speak to the Wi-Fi portion of this. And so we have identified, again, through that $3 million grant, what can we do to be able to support public Wi-Fi? And I think that we do need to meet in our subcommittee groups to be able to discuss the $3 million and discuss how that will be used. But you know, this is a really important effort, a really important piece. It not only is important, but it also is very possible to be able to partner with some of the companies that are out there. We know that AT&T is out there, and they're very, very active, especially in and around the train stations. And you know, it'd be really great to be able to partner with them on cell technology to be able to bring Wi-Fi through the South Norwalk area. So although this has been, I would say in one sense, we've been successful in this and the broadband effort. I do think that there's a lot of work to do with public Wi-Fi, but I'm really optimistic about it. Another recommendation was an education hub, which is a community space dedicated to education for children and adults. And I think that, again, this is something that we need to do a little bit of work on. We talked about 98 South Main, and we've talked about some of the Norwalk Housing Authority buildings and the Smilo Center, but you know, we really need to figure out what this looks like. And I think there is a little bit of a challenge when it comes to capital versus operating and being able to have operationally the funding to be able to support these programs, but also then the staffing to know that we can program them appropriately for all the years to come. And so, you know, again, I'm optimistic about this one. We haven't made as much progress as we have in some of the other areas, but, you know, I think that people in the Mlk Corridor Initiative Committee are really committed to this and know that it's the right thing to do for the community. So another is the traffic and mobility improvements. And I think you probably saw in the public feedback that we received that there are a number of areas of concern with speed and crosswalks and lighting. And so, you know, this one is a little bit more generic. We need the subcommittee to come together, but we need to really focus on traffic and mobility improvements. And that could be anything from ADA compliance and sidewalks to crosswalks and lighting. And I think it really is a safety piece. And not only were we talking a little bit about the speed on MLK and the ability to cross over between some of the neighborhood areas and the train station and so on and so forth, and even some of the the economic development areas down along Wilson Ave and MLK, but there's also a lot of work that's been done on Woodward with the sidewalks and, you know, some of the neighborhoods where we don't necessarily have sidewalks like we should have sidewalks. And so I think there's a big focus here. And I imagine that, you know, I can't say a significant portion because it's going to be a effort where everyone has a voice at the table for the $3 million. But I would imagine that some of the funding will definitely go to transportation, mobility, and parking. Another one that's really important is open space and green space. And, you know, we talked a lot about this with the public. We talked a lot about tree planting. And one of the ideas was, can we please plant trees that bear fruit? Another topic was the playground cleanup. And another topic was really just the beautification of Mldk Corridor. Can we clean up the medians and clean up the plantings? And, you know, this one kind of spans over a couple of different areas, but I think it's all really important. I think not only do we need to think about the tree canopy and reducing the urban heat islands, but I also, you know, I really think that the community would love to be able to see some community gardens and some open space and even some urban parks based on city-owned land and how we use that $3 million. Again, will have to be divvied up, but I do think that that this is a really important effort that we should be putting forward. Another recommendation was neighborhood safety and beautification, and I have a few examples of some of the things that we've done since February 2020, but this one really relates to the public art initiative and cleanup initiatives, as well as solar lighting and bulk pickup. So one of the things that we've seen is that just even between June 20th and October the 1st, we picked up almost 2,700 pounds of garbage in that particular corridor area. And that's not even including the more recent dates. And so, you know, I think that in addition to that, there is graffiti that's going on and we are cleaning that up as well. But we have general trash, I think, in the area that needs to be picked up like we would in any other neighborhood. But then we also have these really interesting areas that end up being more of the industrial or commercial areas that are where we get refrigerators dropped off and mattresses dropped off. And the picture on the left is February 2020 and the picture on the right is July, where it's the same exact area. It's just that we cleaned it up. So, you know, I think it makes a huge difference in being able to get out there and clean up. But we talked a little bit about lighting and the importance of lighting in some of these areas, because these areas tend to be frequent spots for dropping large items, right? So if we're able to light it.
Jessica, that's not drop off, that's dumping. Just to be clear.
Trying to be so polite. Thank you, Darlene.
Please don't be polite.
So people are dumping a whole bunch of things they shouldn't, as Darlene said, and it's just it's not a good scene. So we put some rocks in, we put some signage in, and we just need to figure out how to stop it. So thank you, Darlene. It's not coordinated bulk pickup. But we also made a whole bunch of improvements to Whistleville, and I really applaud the efforts of the community, and I applaud the efforts of the neighborhood improvement team, which is a new area of the city that has been brought together as part of the restructuring of City Hall. So we have Steve Brusky, who's our full-time blight inspector, and then we also have David Shockley, who's our neighborhood improvement coordinator, and they've been a real team over the last year and a year and a half in being able to make a number of different improvements. And we've done simple, very, very simple things like moving planters around, but then David Shockley actually partnered the city with SNU to be able to upgrade the overhead street lighting to make the LEDs brighter. And I really think that this area has a lot of improvement that it's seen, but I'm actually meeting with a whole group of community members tomorrow that are focused on even more improvements for Ely Ave and Mlsk, and the community is just really dedicated to being able to help make improvements in this area, and I'm excited for their passion and their focus on the neighborhood. And we want to really be responsive on the community end and responsive on the city end, and saying, well, we had a neighborhood improvement team and we're able to figure out how to support you and how to help you in that. And so, you know, again, that meeting is tomorrow with some of the community members, but I think, you know, I think Whistleville has seen a lot of improvements, and I'm looking forward to even more. So the other recommendation was a staircase reconstruction at Hamilton MLK. So there are two staircases that are on MLK. They connect the neighborhoods to the South Norwalk train station. One of the staircases was reconstructed a number of years ago, before I arrived, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, possibly even more at this point. But the second staircase, we actually asked at one point in time for capital funding to be able to support the reconstruction of this staircase. And the bids came in higher than what we had available, and we were not able to replace it. And so we've been trying, I would say, for the last year and a half or so to figure out a funding pot to be able to support this reconstruction. So that's $700,000. And, you know, now that that state money has come in, I believe that this will be one of the priorities that does pop up, although we need to confirm that, and we'll do that through the working with the subcommittees and the Mldk Corridor initiative. But definitely, I think a lot of potential here, and I know that that we've talked about it. We did actually include it in the capital budget for the next fiscal year, for FY23, I believe. Maybe FY22, but we've been focused on this because we believe that it helps with first and last mile, and we really believe that it helps with the connectivity between the two neighborhoods. And this staircase really does need to be constructed. There's a lot of damage that's been done to it. Damage from age, I would say, more than anything. Another recommendation is the installation of fencing at Ely Ave. So if you're familiar, there's about 500 feet of chain link fencing that actually keeps Ely Ave away from the Metro North train tracks. And what ends up happening is we can see the garbage collect in the Metro North Railway area and track area, but we can't necessarily go in there and clean it up without proper flagmen and proper flagging support. So it's hard for Metro North to be able to clean that up, but at the same time, you know, the garbage is kind of blowing, and it's just it's visually not very appealing and visually not very attractive. So, you know, we think that we may have the potential to be able to cover up that chain link fence, and not only cover it up with decorative fencing, but then also maybe do a public art initiative as well. And so I think that would help a lot with that neighborhood. I swear I'll stop with the recommendations. I hope everyone is I hope everyone's okay with running through all of these, but, you know, it's great to, sometimes you don't realize how much we've all done as a group, you know, until you put a deck like this together and you start realizing all of the initiatives and some of the, you know, some of the things that are checked off and some of the things still left to go. But I realize that we're on slide 22. So this is 98 South Main Street, and it was recommended for $1.5 million. And the city used the Brookfield GDP money to be able to support this particular project. So $1.5 million was committed. From here, we have SCORE seminars, and we've been working with the Chamber of Commerce and also SCORE to be able to provide training and provide small business training through the Chamber, and also through SCORE itself to be able to support the community and economic development. And that, again, relates to one of the things that Sabrina had asked for in her budget for this upcoming fiscal year, which is that micro entrepreneurial program, where we're able to train folks in starting small businesses and then also offer them grants when they locate here in Norwalk. Another recommendation is the education outreach for existing programs. And this is really the thing that I was talking to you about when I was saying that in the public meeting, the conversation went both ways. It wasn't just folks telling us where their concern areas were, but it was also us being able to educate, hey, did you know that we have a facade program, we have a storefront improvement program? Do you know that we have a blight account where if your property is blighted, we can help support you in fixing it up? So, you know, part of this is outreach and really allowing the community to understand what programs are out there. We recently connected with a woman named Mary Carmen, who is part of the Hispanic community and has a radio station. We're really going to be pushing out the Mlk Corridor initiative and pushing out the programs and helping to have her tell our message and spread our message. And as a matter of fact, we connected her with Lamont Daniels about the vaccination centers and also a few other folks as well. And so we're really trying to figure out how to communicate with folks in South Norwalk and really make sure that they understand what they have offered to them and what they have available to them. So moving forward, we will be meeting in subgroups, as I mentioned numerous times, to discuss each of the recommendations. And part of that is not only to talk about the recommendation, but also tease out a little bit more about how much money that particular effort requires and how we're going to be funding that. We will be meeting as a larger group to discuss the priority recommendations and funding allocations, but depending on how we do that, we believe that the initiatives can begin in summer and fall. And so if we were to think of the artwork that Sabrina's leading, or maybe the staircase reconstruction, because we've already done the design for that, or even some of the tree replacement or tree plantings, we think that we can do those sooner rather than later. And then some of them are a little bit more complex, right? The education center, some of them are a little bit more complex, the public Wi-Fi, but all in all, I'm really proud of the group. And I think that the community has really come forward on this. And I want to thank Darlene for all of her efforts and Reverend Clark and the mayor as well. But that's where we are for now.
Thank you, Jessica. Any questions from the committee?
Yeah, hey, Jess, this is very exciting stuff. Two things. One, can you send a copy of your presentation around? Because it's kind of hard to see some of it on the screen. The other thing, just so you have a lot of recommendations there, but you probably don't have enough money, right?
There's never enough money, Tom.
Yeah, I guess that. So the idea is to sit down with the groups and sort of prioritize and figure out what makes sense, right? What the people want, what the community wants, right?
Yeah, so I think the way that we had organized the recommendations in February was we organized a portion of them as being able to be funded through local. And we primarily focused on being able to use the capital budget for that. Then we also focused on things that were a little bit of a heavier lift, where we thought that we would go to the state in March 2020 and ask the state agencies to be able to support us in some way, shape, or form. And I think the state has really stepped up with the $3 million through the bond agenda. And then there was also what we thought we would need federal support for, and that was more of the operations and the programming that may be ongoing. So we had sort of separated it into 3 buckets where we thought we could potentially go to our elected officials and talk to them about this effort, and in hopes of being able to coordinate funding for them. But I think you're right. There's, $3 million is a lot more than I think the initiative had, even a couple weeks ago, but there's a lot to do. And I think that if we marry that with the capital budget and some of the work that we're doing just in operations, then we can make a little bit of a change. But I definitely feel like it'll be an ongoing effort.
Yeah, well, I look forward to hearing more. It's great.
Barbara?
Yeah, I just want to say what a great initiative, and thanks to everyone who was involved in it. Just like boosting art and culture, the facade improvement. I mean, it's just going to infuse a sense of real pride in that community, in the whole area. So it's terrific. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, just to echo that. Thank you, Jessica, and everyone that participated, Darlene. Yeah, we've absorbed a lot of information tonight. I thought it was a good opportunity, not much on the agenda, to kind of get updated on everything, and I look forward to hearing the follow-up to all the items that we went through. All right, so if there's nothing else, I will now call for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Lisa. All in favor? All right, everyone, have a good night.
All right, thanks, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.